How's it going, everyone? So in this video I'm going to be covering everything about getting the best builds in this game, or at least how to get to the place where you can start building those things. But the TLDR of this entire video is pretty much aimed for the Safi Gear set and the Fatalis set, because, well, that set in particular is going to break the entire game, and if you can even get to it, then you don't even need this guide. However, if you are a new player or a returning player that's just getting into the end game of Iceborne, then you probably aren't going to know exactly what to do, and this is what this video is about. It's going to quintessentially cut down about 10 to 15 videos worth of content into all one nice guide. And so with that, if you appreciate or if this helped you out any, then consider subscribing because it really does help me. But with that, let's get into the video. Now, let me begin with the mix sets because, well, quite honestly, I wasn't really sure how far I would really go into all the different sets and whatnot that you can possibly get because all of it is obsoleted once you beat Fatalis. So grinding for all those mix sets might not necessarily make a whole lot of sense unless if you're, of course, a bowgun or a ranged user, and in which case I have very little knowledge on that playstyle to begin with. But I decided to at least put in a quick mention of all the pieces that would really be worthwhile going out of your way to get that would be useful in a variety of different mix sets with different weapon types and playstyles. Now, I didn't come up with this. This is pretty well what the community has kind of decided what is the best for each set outside of the most powerful gear that you can get in the game. Now, how to get these sets? Well, some of them you get from monsters from the guiding lands, which I'll be covering ways to max that out during my talk on Augment and how to get decorations. So if you need, just rewind and pause the video and write down the pieces to the weapon that you're interested in. Now let's move on to the weapons and armor sets that you get from the large monster raids, such as the Safi Gear and the Taroth weapon and armor sets. Now, let's start with the Safi Gear weapon set, or more importantly, the armor set, because that's what you're really going to need, because it is quintessentially the best armor set that you can get for elemental weapons. It is also the de facto armor set for the anti-Elytreon builds. Now, it's going to really suck whenever Capcom finally cuts the servers completely for Monster Hunter World and possibly take this monster along with it, but let's hope that doesn't happen. Now, a little bit about this armor set is that it is a high-risk, high-reward skill set. So what happens is that whenever you attack, you will drain your life, whether you hit the monster or not. Now, if you can hit the monster enough times, you'll regenerate a generous portion of your total HP. That's not all that it does. What it really does is that it boosts your elemental damage quite a bit overall. Alright, so which armor should you go for? Well, it's pretty much all of the beta set. Now, you want to not use the weapons for the elemental build, since as great as those weapons are for their customization as well as their ability to just perform, the best elemental weapons that you can get with the Safi Gear set is, of course, the Taroth weapons, which let me now jump into talking about that set. Okay, so Taroth, or otherwise of what I'm probably going to be calling it as KT for the rest of this video, is a really good supporting gear set. However, that's not going to help you with anything with anti-Elytreon. But just know that it's a really good set to have some pieces in there if you want some defensive stats. But the main thing that I want to talk about this set is the weapons, which have excellent, if not the best elemental damage in the game for weapons, period. Does have one drawback with it, however, and that is it doesn't have much white sharpness to begin with, so keep that in mind. But let's talk about acquiring the weapon that you want from this set. Now, the sad news here is that it's completely RNG of what weapons that you're going to get. But the fight isn't that hard to do. Just focus on breaking off as many pieces of the body as you can, and you'll get a lot more weapons from it. Now, once you get the weapons that you want, go ahead and upgrade them to the max rarity, and you can start working on the augments, which is the most important thing, which is the exact next thing that I'm going to be talking about. Augments, I think, are one of the best and worst parts about build customization in Monster Hunter World, because quite honestly, it gives you a lot of customization for the weapon itself, but you're oftentimes just wondering, where am I going to get this one specific part, or that you're having to go look up exactly what part you're missing, or monster that you need to hunt down, only to realize that, hey, I don't even have that section leveled up. Well, that's what this section is kind of for, but I can't go into every single bit of this because it would take way too long and it would be a 30-minute video to cover everything. So I've boiled it down to the two most essential augments that you really need for a weapon, at least to get to the final fight against Alatreon and Fatalis. And those two are, of course, the expansion slot and the health augment. Yes, there are going to be ones that are just as good, like the affinity augment, but these two are the ones that you're going to need to start off with getting your Safi Gear build together to go fight Alatreon. And the two monsters that you need to farm to get these two augments are particularly difficult. I wouldn't say difficult, I would more say annoying to be able to access, and that is the Runer Nergigante and Namali. Both of them has to be tempered, and that's really the annoying part of this entire thing. Now, let's talk specifically on how we're going to level up those regions as best we can. Before I begin talking about the little trick that I'm about to tell you, let me just say that you should really focus on the tundra as well as the coral region to get these two monsters. So the trick is just summon the one monster that is connected to the region that you want to level up, and just that region. So the one for the coral region will be the Tizzy Yaku, and you just follow it around, picking up all the traces and footprints that it leaves behind to pick up all the points. This works pretty effectively, and after about 2 or so laps around the region, you banish it or get rid of it, and you repeat. Now, it took me a few hours, but I was being almost completely unoptimized, so you can get this down to about almost an hour if you do it just right. Now, this still seems like a long time for it to take to level all the way up to 7, but keep in mind that the normal way to do this is going to take a lot longer, and you have to do this eventually for all regions, because to get the build parts for the golden and silver armor pieces, you're going to need to get that region leveled up to max just to be able to get a chance for that monster to spawn. And this section is going to be about decorations. More specifically, it's going to be how to farm them, because let's be honest, this is a returning player's guide, and you guys are going to know what decorations are, and which ones you need, but you might not exactly know the best way to go about getting the most rarest, and usually the most helpful ones that you're going to need. And the easiest way to go about doing this is just to constantly farm the Wrath of Thunder Descends, because it's just a Zinogre hunt that gives you a bunch of really good sealed phase stones that you can get really rare decorations from. Now, having said that, it's still going to take you probably a good 20 times to get the rarest, which is the Attack 4 decoration. Yeah, it helps out, but you're still going to be grinding for a while. Now, let me go ahead and shift and talk about the last topic, which is how to cheese some fights. So before I begin with this last section on how to get the most powerful armor in the game, let me just say that this will be a mistake if you want to enjoy the rest of the game, because it is going to break everything. Alright, for everyone that's left, let's just go over the simple mechanics of how this is going to work. If you've ever used the Plunder Blade to cheese through a monster just to get its weapons, it is essentially this. But there are some things that you need to know about beforehand to optimize it to get everything that you want in a timely manner. And we're going to start with the Alatreon battle. So I have to pause here and kind of backtrack on some of the stuff that I'm about to say. You can't actually farm Alatreon with just the Plunder Blade. You do have to break certain parts, the tail and the wings, to get all the pieces that you need for the armor as well as the final upgrade. Now, it's a bit tricky, but the easiest way to do this is to use the Frostcraft HBG build, and you just latch onto the wing and just keep blasting it away and it'll eventually break. For good measures, you should basically bang it against the wall. That's the trick. You don't have to finish the fight and beat him. Just exit out of the mission. I just really wanted to clarify that because I caught it after I got done with all the recording, so yeah. So first things first is make sure you are solo. It's going to really suck if you have a bunch of other players in there. Yeah. The other thing is bring your ghillie mans, as well as some smoke bombs, because it's just going to make it a lot easier to stay alive and not be harassed constantly by Alatreon. Now all you really need to do is just go around and spam the Plunder Blade whenever you can. It's going to be a good 4 times before it tops out on the resources that you can gather from it, and at that point just return from the quest. Make sure you return if you want those rewards. Now let's move on to the Fatalis fight. So this fight is going to be very similar to the Alatreon run, but there is a few things differently. First one is that you can use Waycasters to go back to the camp, which you can use the trick of loading a different Palico weapon, not weapon, but the tool, and then put back on the Plunder Blade to refresh the cooldowns and use Plunder Blade again. The next important thing is going to be trying to break the head and using the cannons in the first area, because, well, it's the part that you're going to most likely need. The super rare part, which eludes me to what it's called at the moment, is a very rare drop. It's going to take about 20 times if you don't break the head. So if you can break the head, then you'll get the part a lot faster. But that's really it. Just know that if you choose to do this, you are breaking game progression a lot, because it is so overpowered that it will ruin the rest of the game and you won't feel like you have earned it. But that's really the main things I wanted to cover. So yes, you guys have been incredible. I can't even believe that I might get to 1,000 subs this year. So thanks for that. And I will be most likely be doing more game reviews and maybe some more guides on anything that you might be interested in. But yeah, see you in the next video.